Hello, today we are going to review scatter plots and lines of best fit. So first one here says the table shows the resale value of 6 SUVs plotted against the age of the vehicle. Part A, construct a scatter plot of the data, then draw and access a line that seems to best represent the data. Alright, so our first order pair from the table here is at 1 year, the value was 24,000. So 1 year it was at 24, so that would be about right here. I did have to double check this point because it looks like our numbers are counting by about 3.3. So this would be 23.3, so 24 would be somewhere right there. Then I got 222. 319, 417, then I got 516, and then 613. Okay, so our graph would look something similar to this. And I'm trying to find my ruler here. There it is. Alright, so then we need to draw a line that would best represent the data. So remember, whenever we are drawing our lines, they are not going to be perfect, but we do want to draw a line that would be close to touching all the points as possible. So if I were to draw a line, I would probably draw one similar to that. Maybe even further down a little bit to hit some of these points, but again, just try your best to draw a line that would hit most of the points. Okay. Alright, and then part B, use the line of best fit to estimate the resale value of a 7-year-old SUV. So there's a couple different ways that we can do this. One way is by looking at our line of best fit and seeing that, okay, at 7 years, it's about right here. So I would maybe say if this is 10 and I had a point right here, that would probably be around 11,000 is what I would say. And they did just tell us to estimate, so I feel like 11,000 would be a pretty good estimate. So like 11,000 or 12,000. Another thing that you could also do is we can create an equation from our line of best fit to figure out an estimate that we can use to figure out how what the value will be at the age of 7, but I won't really know what my y-intercept is, so I would probably just do it this way by looking at 7 years and then looking to see where my line would cross at 7. So I would say about $11,000. Okay. Next one, Sage belongs to a bird watching club. Every 2 days she goes out and counts the number of black-hooded parakeets she sees. The scatter plot shows the number of parakeets she saw in the past 12 days. Write an equation in slope-intercept form for the line that is drawn. Okay. So first thing that I need to do is I need to find the slope of this line. So a couple things I can do here. So here I do have a point. And then I also see another point that would cross out an intersection right here. And then I'm just going to find the slope of it. So again, to find slope, we're using rise over run, starting with the point furthest to the left, and I'm trying to get from point A to point B. So you always rise first. So here I rose from 4 to 6, so that means that I rose 2. And then when I run, I went from 2 to 6, so that means that I ran 4. So that means that I have a slope of 2 over 4, which I will reduce to 1/2. Okay, so I know for sure that my equation, so remember slope-intercept form is in the format of y equals mx plus b. So if I have a slope of 1/2, that means that my equation is going to start with y equals 1/2 x. And then don't forget that your plus b is your y-intercept. So looking here, my y-intercept is where it crosses out on the y-axis. So that is in between 2 and 4. So I will say plus 3. All right, so now we are going to use our equation to make a conjecture about the number of parakeets she saw on the 18th day. So if we're using our equation, and I'm trying to figure out how many parakeets she saw on the 18th day. Well, the x-axis down here is representing the number of days. So I'm trying to figure out how many parakeets she saw on the 18th day. All that I'm going to do is I'm going to plug in 18 for x, and then I'm just going to solve this. So first step is to simplify. So 1/2 times 18 is 9. And then 9 plus 3 would give me 12. So my prediction is she will see 12 parakeets on the 18th day. All right, moving on to the back page here. So Selena's having a surprise party for her friend Ernie. The table shows how many balloons she has been able to blow up by the end of each 10-minute segment. Construct a scatter plot of the data, then draw and access a line that seems to best represent the data. All right, so let's go ahead and start graphing these. So at 10 minutes, she was at 3 balloons, so that's about right here. 20 minutes, she was at 12. 30 minutes, she was at 15 balloons. 40 minutes, she was at 16. And then 50 minutes, she was at 21. All right, so let me draw my line of best fit. Again, I'm just creating a line that would be the best fit for all the points that were graphed. So I would probably say a line that looks like this, okay? Because I had a couple that were higher and a couple lower, so a line right in between them would probably be the best, okay? And then part B says, use your line of best fit to make a conjecture about the number of balloons she will have blown up at the end of 70 minutes. So they do say to use our line of best fit, so I'm going to extend my line here. They don't tell us to write an equation with the line that we got. So I'm going to extend my line so that I can look at 70 minutes. I'm going to look at where does the line cross at 70 minutes, and then I'm going to predict how many balloons she will have blown up by that time. So on my graph at 70 minutes, it's just over 32, so I would probably say somewhere around 32 or 33 balloons. So approximately, I'm just going to say 33. So on your guys' graph, if you had a line that was a little bit smaller, or it went downward a little bit more, so it's not as steep, then you would probably have something around 30, 31 balloons. So I would probably say if you are in between 30 and 35, you are good, okay? Because again, we're just approximating. Because with scatter plots, we don't have a specific slope for all of our points, so we just have to predict, okay? All right, number 4. Sydney is selling his comic book collection on the internet. The scatter plot shows how many comic books he has left at the end of each day. Write an equation in slope-intercept form for the line that is drawn. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and find the slope. So I am going to look for 2 points on the line that cross at intersections. So the first one I do see a point here, and then let's say I use this point here, okay? So again, you're using the 2 points and you're following the formula of rise over run. And you always want to rise first, but notice here if I rise, I'm getting further and further away from my second point. So that means that I'm going to have to fall. So when I'm falling, notice how I went from 80 to 60, so that means that I fell 20, so that's a negative slope, negative 20. And then I go from 1 to 3, so that means that I run 2. So my slope here is negative 20 over 2, which can be reduced to negative 10. Okay. So again, slope-intercept form equation is y equals mx plus b, where m is your slope and b is your y-intercept. So in this case, our equation is going to be y equals negative 10x. because we just found the slope to be -10. And then your plus b is where it crosses out on the y-axis. So as you guys can see, our line starts here at 90 on the y, so that means it's going to be plus 90. All right, and then use your equation to make a conjecture about the number of comic books he will have at the end of the day on the 7th day. So on the 7th day, again, you can use your line of best fit to predict, but let's just use our equation since it does say to use the equation. So on the 7th day, all that I'm going to do to figure out how many comic books he will have at the end of it is I'm going to plug in 7 for x, and then I'm just going to solve this. So -10 times 7 is -70. And then -70 plus 20 will give me, or sorry, -70 plus 90 will give me 20 comic books. And that would be my estimation. All right, moving on to the last question here. So Maury has an ice rink in his backyard. The scatter plot shows the thickness of the ice related to the temperature. Write an equation in slope-intercept form for the line that is drawn. Okay. So again, when I'm writing in slope-intercept form, this is in the equation y equals mx plus b. So let's go ahead and find the slope of this line. So I see a point here. And let's say I use this point here. Okay, so I see these 2 points that cross at intersections. And remember, when you're finding slope, you're finding the rise over the run. So I always want to rise first. So notice that if I'm rising, I'm getting further and further away from this point. So if I can't rise, that means that I fall. And when I fall, that means that my slope is negative. So when I go from -1 to -2, that means I fell 1. And then notice how when I run, I need to see what we're counting by here. So since I have 2 numbers here in between 1, that means I'm counting by thirds. So this would be 1/3, 2/3, and 1/3, kind of similar to one of the ones that we did here, where we were counting by about 3.3, I think it was this one. Yeah, so here we were counting about the same. So when I'm going over 1, I'm really going over 1/3. So if my slope is -1 over 1/3, okay, I want to make this look nicer. Okay, so in my calculator, remember, a fraction bar means that you can just divide. So if I were to take 1 divided by my 1/3 here, notice how I'm just going to get a slope of 3. Okay, so, and it is negative because I did have a negative sign. So -1 over 1/3 is the same thing as -3. And notice how my y-intercept crosses through 0. So my equation here is just going to be y equals -3x. Because I don't need to put the plus 0 because that plus 0 doesn't mean anything if it does cross through the origin here. Okay. All right, and then use your equation to make a conjecture about the 1/3 inches. So all that I'm going to do is I'm going to plug in 1/3 for x. And then just simplify. So -3 times 1/3 is just -1. So that means for every 1/3 inch of ice, that means that the temperature is going to be -1 degrees Fahrenheit. And that is it. So this is just a basic review on scatter plots and lines of best fit. So if you have any questions, make sure you let your teacher know. Thank you.